everyone and welcome to my video. In this video I would like to describe and show you some features of a 718 GT4. It's been my dream car since, well, 2015, and fortunately my dream came true in 2020. I've been living with this car for 2 years and personally I really love it, and I also think I got quite deep in information and knowledge about this car, about living with this car, and also about configuration of this car. In this video I would like to walk you through some choices and options you can and you will definitely need when configuring your GT4. Of course, every car should be a mirror of your personal taste and likings. However, I truly believe that some of you may find valuable some input from configuring and living with a car which looks like this. So to start with, choosing a color for you is strictly personal, and I think you should click through the Porsche configurator all night long, maybe some more sleepless nights, and I am quite sure you're gonna find eventually a combination which suits you the best. However, the options I can give you some insight on is this. This is a guard thread. It's a historical Porsche color, or at least in its modern history, and I would love to say that it's an option which everyone likes, but that would not be true. But I think most of the people likes it. Some wasn't sure about the idea of this car red with the gold wheels, but once you see it in person, it speaks for itself, I would say. What I would encourage you to do is actually not to go too wild when combining the color of the body of the car, the brake calipers and these wheels. I've seen some cars which, because owner find it the best, have PCCBs as the carbon ceramics are named. However, if you have a red car with gold wheels and yellow PCCB calipers, sometimes the combination could be a little bit too loud. So try to think about, well, let's say, not combining too much colors at once. There is a feature which helps a lot, and it's quite cool option, at least in my opinion. It makes the car a little bit under the radar, a little bit like a Q car, and this option are the black calipers. Black calipers are available with steel brakes and with carbon ceramics as well. Speaking of these brakes, this car is equipped with steel brakes because I like the feel of them, and I was not planning to actually spend that much time on the edge with the car. However, as I talked with other owners of GT products from Porsche and also from Mercedes-AMG and so on, it's quite interesting, but once you dig deep into track driving, you uncover the fact that most of the most serious track drivers actually prefer steel, because over time you're gonna have a significant wear even on the carbon ceramic brakes. However, when changing the carbon ceramics, you are still looking at a, let's say, $10,000 to $15,000 bill. On the other side, steel brakes are quite cheap to maintain and cheap to replace completely. So what is the main reason to go for ceramics? Well, there is one, and it's a big one. If you choose a carbon ceramic brakes, you're gonna spare like 25 kilos of weight, but it's not weight of the car as a whole, it's unsprung mass as it's called, and that means the weight is actually under the damper. And the unsprung weight is quite a big factor when talking about feel of the car, the steering input and so. And 25 kilos of unsprung mass is a lot. That's why Porsche offers some ridiculous option as magnesium wheels, which could be as far as $25,000 or about this when talking, for example, about BBSs or so, because on the car as a package, well, kilos can have a significant role, but not usually. Well, let's talk tens of kilos, better hundreds of kilos to actually make a substantial difference. But under the on the axle, on the, well, let's say parts of the car which are not actually sprung, every single gram matters. So this is the main plus which PCCBs definitely offer. Also, Andreas Preininger, head of GT department at Porsche, strongly encourage you to take the PCCBs. I truly believe the reason behind this is because when you are a driver on a certain level, like he is, you are definitely able to tell from the steering if the front axle has that much less work to do with lighter brakes, or even when talking GT3 RS or so, wheels as well. The second thing being, I would like to talk you through this, is what I actually experienced on my own. When I was waiting for my GT4, I listed through forums, through Renlist, through GT Planet or so, and I tried to search for threads where new owners posted their cars, their newly delivered cars. And I noticed one thing which I was completely unaware of before, that when you walk through the reviews, YouTube videos and so, you are 100% sure that GT Porsches always wear Michelins. Well, that's not completely true, because technical specs of the car you are buying speaks nothing of Michelin Cup 2s. It speaks of a high-performance track tire. And these are not only Cup 2s, also another options as well. In my case, model year 2020, OEM tires, in other words, tires which could be delivered to factory and fitted as standard on the car, were Cup 2s and Dunlop SP Sport Max. I found out about this actually one day before I was supposed to take delivery of my car, and all I was thinking of, let there be Michelins, let there be Michelins. But I was lucky, these are Cup 2s, I didn't have to buy another tire. But in retrospective, thinking back about this, you shouldn't be bothered as much, because Dunlop SP Sport Max are also great tire. It definitely doesn't spoil the experience of this car. Well, Cup 2s, I know of course you want Cup 2s, because all the track times, notch lifetimes, a review for Evo magazine, for Road and Track, like for everyone, it's always driven on Cup 2s. Actually, there are no official number on Dunlop SP Sport Max wearing GT4 lapping or notch life. However, When I dug deep into the reviews, I found out that Dunlop SP Sport Parks also have some positive sides. People told me they are actually maybe a little quieter and maybe a little softer sidewall, so you don't get that much rattles and bangs in the cabin. On the other side, of course, it let you go and let the car slide definitely sooner than Cup 2s. And in the end, if the owner would be open-minded, some could also prefer the Dunlops, because also from my point of view, with Cup 2s, the level where the car slides and lets you have some silly fun is ridiculously high. So that's about it. Some owners who prefer to do some serious trick diving, yeah, they switch to Cup 2s. So if you are waiting for your GT4 or you are configuring a GT4, let's keep it as a surprise. And I think even if it arrives on the second choice of yours, keep your mind open, get a feel for the car, and yeah, you got always your door open to change the tires. Let's talk about another option, and I would say mostly this option is about convenience and safety, and these are the headlights of the car. There are some options. Even the base headlights with no surcharge for these are very good. On the other side, I would say the best looking lights on a 718 are these. Of course, because Porsche is in the end a company and they are very good businessmen, so they make sure the best looking headlights are also the most advanced and the priciest. However, it's not only about style. I chose these lights because I made some quite long road trips around Europe and I'm quite used to driving at night. I would strongly recommend you to choose the PDLS Plus, because at least compared to the metric lights on 911, this is not that expensive of an option, and the performance of these lights is maybe one of the very best in automotive industry I have ever experienced. Of course, these lights offer you the option of switching the high beams on and leaving it like that, and these lights, well, let's say, throw shade for you onto the oncoming traffic, so you don't have to care about high beams at all. So for me, this was a no-brainer, and if you are, well, let's say, not tight on a budget, I would definitely recommend you to take these lights as well. Also, they have a very nice graphic, let's say a Porsche front signature with these 4 points, LED points. These are the same as a 911, Cayenne, Macan, Panamera and Taycan, where it's, well, let's say, very fitting and I think also very nice. With the base headlights, I always had a little problem. There are only one optic and the rest of the headlight is completely plastic. If you care about how the car looks, or if you have, let's say, a feel for it, think twice when choosing the headlights. If you, on the other side, try to build a track weapon and you don't care about driving at night at all, and you don't care about the looks of the car at all, don't bother. Even you can save a few hundred grams of weight if you go for the base headlights. And if you look closely on the record runs on Nordschleife, Porsche is very particular about making these cars which go for the lap time as light as possible, and all of these have the base headlights starting from 911, 718s as well. Another big topic when configuring a 718 GT4 or maybe 718s in general are seats and interior options. Let's start with seats, because this is a heavy thing to consider and choose. These seats are actually let's say, partnership with another option, which is Club Sport package. The Club Sport package consists mainly of a roll cage. It's an integrated steel roll cage which is fixed in the car. When you have a Club Sport package with a roll cage, you can definitely have the harnesses. As you can see, these harnesses are FIA certified, made by Schrott Racing from Germany. For example, if you configure these in a Ferrari, you have only the harness and also airbag wire and you know, the check light is integrated in the harness, and there is no regular seat belt. In a Porsche, you got both. There is the regular seat belt, in this case a red one, God's red one, which of course I had to choose to match with the car and the interior, and also the harnesses. What is very interesting is, when you are fixed in the car in these harnesses, the airbag check light and this beeping is still on. It's a thing you can't really fix, and it's meant to be like that by Porsche, so don't be bothered. If you were in a regular 718 or 911, the beeping, ding-dongs and all of these unpleasant sounds which try to make you fasten your seatbelt would never go away. In this car, it's set up differently because manufacturers know that there could be the case you are in the harness on a track. So this is being thought of. Another thing, really nice, it doesn't really have anything to do with performance, are door sill guards. In this case, I chose carbon one, and it's strictly based on my personal liking, and it's about the style of the car. If you don't opt for these, it's up to you. I chose these because they made me happy to look at. It's piece of a design of the car. These are also illuminated. If you don't choose these, they are going to be like a regular plasticky one with some kind of aluminum look. But these go very well with the standard interior package when you also opt out of carbon or something more expensive and more stylish, and it's not definitely necessary to have these in your car. Welcome to the interior of a 718 GT4, and I will walk you through some options which can be made inside the cabin. So to start with, I already talked about Club Sport package and harness. What you see here is another option on top of Club Sport package, because the Club Sport package contains only harness for the driver. I wanted to, let's say, bring some very racing vibe also to my friends and my fiance and family, and so when giving them rides. So I opted for these also for a passenger. It's not that pricey option. You should definitely consider according to your plans with your car. In the end, I haven't used them as much as I expected, because most of the people I ridden shotgun with were terrified enough by the car as a whole, so it was not really necessary to, let's say, bondage them with these. Well, when you try to help them and to let's say be honest with these, it's a little bit 50 Shades of Grey like, so it's up to you. You definitely. So another thing, and this is a big topic to talk about and for you to consider, is how much of leather do you want in your interior. What you see here is a full leather interior package. So you can tell by leather on this upper part of a dashboard, of this shield above gauges, and also by this beautiful red stitching. When I chose red for the exterior of the car, it was very easy also to choose red stitching. However, if you choose color options which don't have the counterpart in the interior, I would like to advise you to be, well, let's say, measured or considerable, because don't overdo with colors, as I also mentioned earlier. For example, with chalk colored car, chalk is a very well, let's say, loved color option. Don't go yellow stitching inside and steel red brakes outside. It could a little bit be out of topic for the car as a package. However, when talking basics, if you want the leather or not, depends on you and on how you want to use the car. I wanted to do a lot of road trips and, let's say, to like my car also a little bit as an art piece, to enjoy fine leather, to smell, to look at, and these beautiful stitching. So it was a no-brainer for me. However, it's quite expensive option. You also got a very nice Alcantara on the door cards. If you want to build a track machine, something you won't care that much about, you maybe would like to abuse a bit, don't hesitate to go for the regular plastic dashboard, because you will save a few kilos, you will save a few thousand grand, and if you don't care about a touch, smell or artisan of these pieces and how these are made, why not then? Just keep in mind, if you opt out of this leather dashboard, you are gonna have a plastic door cards. These door cards are without this carbon or aluminium trim. The regular door cards are these without the leather interior package, and the trim is not there at all. It was quite surprising for me, but it is what it is. The plastic door cards actually has only like shape of these trims, but there are no actual trims. And the Alcantara leather and so any of these pieces are not there, and it looks kind of cheap. However, as I said, if you go for a track machine, why you should care? Racing cars don't have any door cards, so why not then? Another option which is to be seen in the interior, but of course has something to do with the performance of the car, is the option of a gearbox. When I spec'd my car, only manual was available, and I'm absolutely happy with this. Manual brings a lot of joy. It's something to look forward to, and it elevates your feel and all your experience from the car to another level. It also has a very nice short throw and beautiful sound, absolutely beautiful sound. It's one of the last of a dying breed, so if you like rowing your own gears, definitely go for it. The only downside is a little bit compromised performance when you try to measure 0 to 100, but most of the people, when they actually live with the car, don't care at all. The second thing being, this is of course only a 6-speed manual. It's a gearbox from GT department, so it's not like a regular manual like used to be in a 911, for example, the 7-speed. So the ratios of the gears 1, 2, 3 are quite long, as most of the reviewers said. There's been a lot of criticism about this. I don't think it's that much of a mistake at all. Maybe because I live in a country with quite meek police. On the other side, yeah, it's not like you would go through the first 3 gears in a moment. Yeah, these are quite long, but why I started on this, the 6th isn't that long, so on the longer trips prepare yourself that if you are traveling like on the autobahn 160, 170, the car is gonna be a little bit louder than it would be with a PDK. With a PDK, the 7th gear would tone it a little bit down and maybe would make the traveling a little bit more pleasant. Option I would absolutely recommend you to have is cruise control, or tempomat as they say in Germany and Europe. Is compared to another option, it's really cheap, and you know, the pedals, the gas pedals, and so all of these parts you interact with the car are a little bit heavy. So if you want to go a little more distance at once, you definitely value some options which make it easier for you. For example, if you drive on your own to a track day and it's like 400-500 kilometers, why not turn the cruise control on and just enjoy the ride and relax until you actually arrive on a racetrack and focus 100%. Another option which we see here is a PCM. PCM is almost the same for all of the cars. It's standard. Which could be chosen is what actually you have in the PCM, and I'm talking about Apple CarPlay and navigation. Apple CarPlay is an absolute no-brainer for me, because your iPhone is gonna be up to date every time. So you can solve all your problems with calling, with navigation, with music mostly, with no problem. It's maybe a little pricier that you would expect, but it's definitely not that bad, and I would definitely recommend you to. Option I opted out for, I haven't chosen, is actually the navigation. What you pay for when configuring a navigation is a GPS module. I think also this was a question for me, and it could be a question for you. Do I have a track precision app when opting out of navigation? The answer is, and I actually had to find out on my own and then give advice to my dealer for another future owners of this car. If you don't have the GPS module, you won't have track precision app as well. I don't think for me it wasn't necessary, because I do most of the track driving on the track I know very well, and I also had some external timing. If you want to trip racetracks around Europe or around the US, wherever you live, and switch between various, Why not have the Track Precision app? The database of tracks in the Track Precision app is quite wide, so it's not a bad option at all, but consider for yourself. The navigation is one of the more expensive options, and also you can save a few hundred grams. Also the cars which usually go for a record, sometimes they don't have any PCM at all, if there is such an option. One thing which makes me smile and makes most of the people smile and is completely standard, only color is changed, are these door pulls. These are a substitute for a regular handle. The interesting thing is that on a new 992 GT3 there are actually regular handles, and these door pulls are going to be reserved for a GT3 RS. So actually you have a more hardcore feeling in a regular GT4 and GT4 RS than in a new 992 GT3 with these. It's a nice little touch, it saves a few hundred grams. Nothing substantial, it's just for you and for your feel, but it works. This car also have this nice exclusive manufacturer option, which is the Sport Chrono in red. What you don't see on the configurator is that, as people who are into watches say, the dial has a sunburst, so it has a kind of metallic finish which reflects a lot of sun rays, and it's very shiny when under light, and I think it looks absolutely fabulous. It's like a little gem you install on top of a masterpiece. This interior is very ergonomic, nothing to distract you from focus on driving, and yet the quality and let's say artisan value in this car is very high. So that's it. What you don't find in the interior is a lift option. No, the fault is not in your browser. There is no lift option for GT4. So you're gonna have to be, well, let's say, you will have to take care of your car and what you try to drive into or out of or over. So, but on the other side, this car is about being light and being about driver's car, and this is an option which would make your life easier, but is not there. I would like to maybe for last thing clarify one also question. This car is quite close to 991.2 GT3. The front axle is the same, and also some of the parts in the interior. This car, the GT3, the older GT3, has an option called flat shift. That means even with manual you can shift like you are full on throttle, then just engage the clutch, still full on throttle, change the gear, and then only disengage the clutch while still holding the gas pedal 100%. It's some like halfway to an automatic gearbox. It's a very interesting feature of a GT3. However, many people speculated about this being on a GT4 because why not? These cars are related. However, there is no flat shift option on a GT4, and don't try to engage this feature. No, it's not present in the car, and if you try to do so, there is a serious possibility of damaging your gearbox. So don't try this, you are on your own, you will have to shift the old-fashioned way. So in this part I would like to summarize and reflect on my 2 years living with this absolutely gorgeous car. It was my dream I have been dreaming of owning this car, as I said, like from 2015, from 2016, from the moment the older GT4 came out. I am absolutely happy with how these 2 years turned. It's an absolutely beautiful car, or at least in my opinion, in my eyes, and more importantly, it's an absolutely beautiful car to drive. If you want to have some impressions about driving this car, there are many beautiful reviews, like from Car Faction, Evo magazine or so. From my point of view, I would only love to say that one of the, maybe the nicest, let's say, page in a book of this car is how nice it is to its driver. It flatters you even if you are not doing everything 100%. GT3 in comparison is also a very hardcore car. These two cars are very related. However, GT3, of course, as a 911, has the engine over the rear axle. The 718, and as many people love to say, has the better distribution of transmission, weight, and so, because the engine is in the middle of the car, is behind your seats, and there are no rear seats in this car. What this translates to? It translates to that the adjustability, even in the middle of the corner, in this car is absolutely breathtaking. If you are doing something not properly, not right, like being scared of in the middle of the corner and lifting off, or braking at a bad point, or overcooking the enter of the curve, GT3 is gonna punish you quite significantly. Whereas GT4 will only try to tell you, hey, you are doing it wrong, you should try better, and then gives you some margin to make your error right. So I think this is the idea behind this car. This is why Andreas Preuninger and the GT department always wanted to make this car happen. Right now, there is also the more hardcore version of this car, which is GT4 RS, which in the end has the regular GT3 engine. 718 GT4, if you don't know up until this moment, doesn't have a GT3 engine, and it's a common mistake. This also has a 4-liter flat 6 engine, but it's derived from a 992 Carrera, which has been bored out and de-turboed. So this engine definitely has a motorsport vibe, but it's not a pure motorsport engine. That's reserved for GT3, and I think it's absolutely okay like that. If you want to learn to drive properly, like really properly, this car would be like best friend for you. This car, you and maybe some kind of an advisor, maybe like ex-racing pilot turned coach, that's a perfect trio, because this, if you are experienced, is a serious weapon, but you can use it also when still stepping up on this, on, you know, your game. I would like to say it like that. So I think, yeah, you can't really do wrong with this car. That's the most appealing, I would say, about a 718 GT4. Why you also can't really make a bad decision when going for this car is because it's quite practical. There are actually two luggage spaces. If you choose a 911 GT3 with a Club Sport package, rear shelf where the rear seats used to be is going to be useless, because like no bag could be loaded in there, because the holes in the roll cage are very small and the bucket seats also are in the way of you loading your luggage. However, GT4 doesn't have this problem. It has a big front luggage space, and it has also a very decent rear luggage space, or as it's common to say these days thanks to Tesla and so, it has a trunk and a frunk. So that's about it. You can definitely do a longer, like a Euro trip or a road trip in the US with your significant half or your family, and it's gonna be perfectly okay like that. Second thing being, when talking about practicality and doing some longer drives with the car, it's very easy on fuel. You wouldn't believe it, but Porsches are all about making the original recipe perfect. Perfecting aerodynamics, perfecting kinematics of the car, and also the engine mapping and the process of burning petrol and turning it into forward motion. So on a longer road trip, I got under 10 liters per 100 kilometers, which is actually absolutely great. It's a figure which is lower than even a diesel Cayenne S, or definitely a petrol powered Cayenne, and on par with some of the cheaper options of a Panamera. So absolutely great. You would definitely love to find out about running costs of the car. When I talked about this car being a great companion for you starting your career as a track driver, this is another piece of this puzzle, because the car is very easy on brake pads and also tires. Thanks to the great weight distribution, the naturally aspirated engine, because turbo engine tends to have a lot of torque, and when you are not measured with the torque on the rear wheels, you're gonna drift a lot, slide and tear up your rear wheels. In this car, the control over rear axle and the power delivery is almost perfect thanks to a naturally aspirated engine, and it comes hand in hand with a prolonged life of your tires. So that's another thing which I truly believe was perfected by Porsche engineering. On the downside, as I also mentioned earlier, the front has no lift option. There is a compensation for this. This front splitter is this matte plastic. Some would say it doesn't look expensive, I would change it for carbon, but I think you would go absolutely contrary to the philosophy of this car, because the philosophy of this car is enjoy it, drive it hard, and when something breaks, it's not gonna break your bank account. And it's absolutely true about this splitter, because aerodynamically it works perfect and it's not that expensive to change. However, I was lucky, mine is absolutely intact. Also because I was very careful when entering and driving off, you know, underground car parks or speed bumps and so. But you have to keep this in mind when you have no lift. The car is not the lowest car ever, but not an SUV either. So keep this in your mind when driving a 718 GT4. What I definitely went for and would advise you to is if you want to enjoy your car properly, I think in these days PPF is the way to go. If you don't care about the visual side of your car, or you are not in OCD, well, you can live without, but keep in mind also when you are not that used to track driving, on track there's a lot of debris, stones and loose rubber. All of these have the power to make some dings and scratch the paint, even you know, damage the paint heavily, and you're gonna have a lot of trouble afterwards fixing this. With PPF you can be absolutely you can have absolute peace of mind. Most of the exposed part of this car is behind front wheels, because of course the side mirrors, which definitely with the A-pillars, bonnet and front wings have PPF, but maybe the weakest point to some damage are these air inlets. On a sister car 718 Spider there are none. On a regular 718 there are none as well, but these are signature to a GT4. There is also this GT4 beautiful lettering on it, and if these were not in a PPF, they would be, even with me not driving on a track that much, they would be definitely scratched, banged, and so, because a lot of stones end up on this very edge. Also, when washing this car, always look inside and try to carefully get the stones out of this, because a lot of stones ends up in here. Talking about driving this car, you should be also very careful when it comes to temperatures, because this is one of the basics when owning and driving a sports car. Is something I learned like years and years ago. If you want to give your GT4 a long and healthy life, always drive according to temperatures. GT cars from Porsche have this one feature I absolutely love. Most of the cars on the market actually lies to you about temperature, because in reality the temperature of the cooling of water, of cooling medium and of oil go up and down a lot, but most of the car customers were terrified of this, so therefore automakers decided to set up the ECU and the gauges to lie to you. Porsches are absolutely 100 give you the truth. So the oil temperature varies from 75 to 120 when driving, and it's absolutely okay. Water temperature as well. And this gives you the option to heat up your car before some spirited or even hard driving. Well, always keep your eye on the oil temperature. This is the most important of them all. If you are in the good range of water temperature, that means absolutely nothing, because the oil is what makes the engine lubricated and tells you about its current mood, state, let's say it like that. So you should definitely go for it when the oil reaches at least 60 to 65 degrees Celsius. Calculated to Fahrenheit, I'm sorry, I don't speak imperial. So, and then go for it. Second thing being, some owners experienced a little problems with the gearbox. Also, if you want to make your gearbox have a long life, be easy on it. When driving for first kilometers, even tenths of kilometers, I always drive like 20-25 kilometers before going for it, or at least when it's not a hot summer. At first, the gearbox is very heavy. You have to really push the first and the second definitely into place. Don't wrestle the gearbox. Try to negotiate the car, go into gear and be easy on it. And like in 5 minutes, it's gonna be butter smooth. That's why this happened. It's all about gearbox oil and gearbox as a whole temperature. Let it go into temperature gradually, slowly, and prepare the car for some serious driving. If you can't wait enough to drive it hard, you definitely harm the car when you try to show off and you do some burnout or donut when the car is cold. The wear and tear on the car is gonna raise significantly under this kind of usage. So I definitely advise you to listen to the thermometers which are in the gauges. Always keep this page on, or at least when starting your drive, and drive accordingly. Then you are definitely enjoy a healthy, long-lived GT4. And the last thing being, and also kind of sad because this video is also a farewell to my GT4, is residual value. Well, residual value is absolutely great. I would like to advise you not to buy this car as a thing of your economic status or as an anti-inflation tool. Well, it could serve like that, but it would be definitely a shame not to drive it. So try to drive it, try to enjoy it, and also enjoy a very good residual value as a reward. In my case, I was able after 2 years to sell the cars a little above list price. One of the key factors was the massive inflation we have in 2022. So if we take this into account, it's not definitely something I would get rich from, and it's not meant to be like that. But it's nice not to lose a lot of money on a car like this, because in the past it used to be like you're gonna bleed money driving off the dealer's car lot. When I take into consideration also, I opted for Porsche extended warranty, which I would love to recommend you to, because the services under Porsche extended warranty are absolutely great. They have no questions, that just change the parts, and you know, it covers almost everything on the car, so it's absolutely great. I went for it. It's not cheap, but I did. And the second thing being, I also spent some money on PPF. Some would say, well, you spent a lot of money, and does it pay it back in the residual value? Well, I would say maybe not, but I was not having this car for residual value. I was having it for me to bring joy and happiness, and for me joy and happiness is also looking at a car which looks pristine. And PPF here from guys which kindly lent me this room was absolutely great. It saved me a lot of sad moments, maybe nightmares about some track driving and so it was definitely worth it, and I would definitely recommend you to. So as a package, as a whole, my experience with this car was absolutely great. I would recommend you to, if you are experienced Porsche owner and it's your first dip into GT department, it's a car for you. It's if you are dipping even your foot into Porsche world, coming from some other performance machines, and these being not enough maybe, also go for it. It also makes a very nice additions to some hardcore supercar like an F8 or Tributo, or you can imagine. If you are, let's say, not in a mood to trash these on track and your budget allows, it also makes a very nice addition to supercars like these with some more analog driving. So thank you for watching, and I hope it gave you some ideas and maybe some inputs for you to decide how your GT4 should look and what to expect about ownership of this car.